inside of of
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. So give me just a second. Okay, and I am not seeing it, so just give me a moment. Yeah, it says this is on view on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. It's just taking a minute. Okay, it looks like it's on. That's great. And I am just going to copy this link here and put it into our. Okay, it says it has 1 minute, so let's just wait 1 more minute. How's your day going?
Good. Just getting ready for this. So you get the easy part. You just get to ask questions.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm gonna drag you into it. Are you happy for if I ask you to share some stuff?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
You're crackly.
Uh-oh. Am I?
Yeah.
Maybe my computer's dirty.
So I had to run out and get a new camera this morning. So
Did you?
yeah, I was like, I can't deal with this camera. So this is me. This is my first time with my camera.
Okay. So looks like we are on LinkedIn, so that's working. That's great. I'm going to repost this. So give me just a second. Anyone done? This is all about preventing burnout for working moms. All right. I think that's it. I think we're live. I think this is happening.
Okay. Do we have anybody there?
I don't know. I don't know yet because it's 12 p.m. now, so they all should be getting the notifications right now. Please join our live here. I'm just going to share this link. So give me just a second. Hope you're good. There we go. Okay, that should
We've got
work.
30 minutes. Is that what we're doing? 30 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, 30 minutes. We're going to get this done. And it'll also save, which is really nice, to LinkedIn. So why don't we just start, because it's 12:01 and we're streaming live. So why don't you introduce yourself, Andrea, and we can kick off.
Okay. Well, my name's Andrea Smith, and I own an organisation called the Thrive by Design Group, where we work with organisations and high-performing females to prevent burnout, to ensure that we have high engagement, retention, and career development for, as I say, high-achieving females within organisations.
And my name is Lauren Ezel. I'm the head of community at Maple. We're a household management app, and we help families just keep it all together. Really excited to talk today about preventing burnout for working moms. And Andrea has been lovely enough to join us. So thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It's amazing. And it's amazing what Maple does as well. Like the app is fantastic. We use it in our house. And I'd say it's a godsend, to be honest.
It's built for parents by parents, which I think makes a really big difference.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's really good. It's really good.
So let's just start with maybe a little bit about burnout, what that means to you, and why it's a topic you think moms should care about.
Yeah, I mean, burnout in its simplest form is mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion, and it's a state of chronic exhaustion due to high levels of prolonged stress. Now, we all have moments of stress in our lives, but burnout is when it's just that constant, long-term high levels of it. And it's characterized by cynicism, depletion, overwhelm. The way I like to describe it is, I think when female or males or anybody's in a state of burnout, they're oscillating between these two extremes. Overwhelm at one extreme, where they've got too much on, they're completely overloaded, down to what I'd like to describe as underwhelm, where, there's that lack of engagement, the cynicism, depletion. And I think overwhelm at its most extreme looks like anxiety, and underwhelm at its most extreme looks like depression. And so that's how I would categorize it. I'd say that it impacts our lives both professionally and personally. And for females in particular, I'd say it's really important. The research suggests, Harvard Business Review wrote a report in 2021 which suggested that there's a higher rate of burnout in females. They said that 42% of females were suffering from burnout compared to 35% of their male counterparts. And actually that's exacerbated in female leaders as well. 43% of female leaders are burnt out. And this came from a McKinsey report with the Lean In organization. And 31% of male leaders were burnt out. So it's a really important subject. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think, the research suggests that females do double the amount of, in general, everything's in general that I'm going to speak about, but in general, females are doing that, not only they're working, but they're doing that double shift as well, where they're taking on double the amount of family and domestic caring responsibilities. But then there's also that triple shift as well, which a lot of people don't talk about. I know we talked about it, Lauren, previously. And the triple shift is where females actually, even in the workplace, are taking on extra responsibilities called the office housework. They're the ones organising the cake for the party, or they're looking after people's well-being and health, and they take on more of those responsibilities even in the workplace. So I think it's a really important subject.
Yeah, and I think just talking about that triple shift for a second, specifically for working moms inside the workplace are more likely to take on the meeting agendas and taking the notes and doing any cultural projects. And I can't tell you how many times in my previous role, because now I work from home, so it's very different. But when I was in the office, there were many times like I was cleaning the kitchen after lunch.
Wow. Okay.
Like
the office housework there.
And it was like physically, literally, and it was interesting because I never really thought too much about it. Just that I was like helping out, as a good employee. But certainly, most of the people that I saw picking up after coworkers were kind of moms. They were the ones that were seeing it and doing it, and that's really interesting. So, can you maybe talk a little bit, if you're comfortable, Andrea, about in your personal experience, if you ever encountered burnout and what that looks like?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a reason why I set up the company. It's a reason why I started writing a book around this. My career started, I worked in sales and sales leadership for what is now the largest global medtech company. And I think I probably oscillated in bouts of burnout, but it became really exacerbated when I was due to have my second child. My husband was working away Monday to Friday. I was trying to juggle my role as a leader, a wife, a mother. And I was definitely on the cusp of burnout. And so I thought that actually it was a job that was a problem, and decided to try and solve for it by stepping out of corporate life and setting up my own business. Not this business, it was to do sales training to the medtech industry. And, by that point, child number 3 had come along. I actually have 4 children, just for transparency. I'm one of those crazy people with 4. But at this point, when we set up the organization, I had 3 children. And again, I was constantly on the edge of mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion. And so when, as a family, we got the opportunity to move from the UK to the US, and I had this opportunity to give up paid employment, I assumed that this would solve for burnout. Interestingly and surprisingly, my burnout actually got worse. And I think it came down to me always assuming that my value was wrapped up in my career. And when I didn't have a career anymore, I stepped out of it and, was raising 4 children, I had to find a way to prove my worth and my value. And I did that by taking on more things. And burnout was exacerbated at this point, and it really reached its peak. And particularly during COVID, as I'm sure many many can relate to. And so it led me to do research. It led me to talk to other females. I realized that most females I know are, somewhere on the spectrum of burnout, because that's what I say it is.
Yeah.
And so it led me to setting up the Thrive by Design group, and we run courses for high achieving women. We create small groups where we bring them together, and we work through a process and a journey to solve for it.
Yeah. How?
So I was going to say, what's your experience, Lauren, of burnout?
Oh, well,
I know most women have a story.
yeah. So it's interesting. I didn't realize until later what it was that I was experiencing and when I was experiencing it. It wasn't until I was like out of it that I really looked back and went, oh, wow, I can't believe I didn't ask for help. I can't believe I didn't realize what was going on. I can't believe I took so much on. But it was also a similar situation to yourself, Andrea, where I had my second son. I was working full time. And my second son had a nasal tip compound hemangioma, which is a benign tumor in his nose as an infant. And so we ended up having to go get on beta blockers. So it was life-threatening. It was pushing on his nasal passageway. So it was blocking his blocking his breathing. And so we went on beta blockers. And I don't know if you know anything about beta blockers, but the way that they work is they slow the heart rate down. And in turn, that slows the blood flow to internal organs, which would then starve the hemangioma of blood, which was its life source. So it would shrink the tumor. And the problem was you put an infant on beta blockers and it slows their heart rate down. And so they have to be observed. So we were going into the hospital 1-2 times a week while I was taking him. I was getting off work. I was taking him in. I was dropping my other son at daycare. I was staying for the appointment. We'd administer the medication. We'd go under observation. Then I would come home. And it was like, we did this for a very long time. And then once we got to a good place, I was doing the medication at home. But I think there was just so much stress. We ended up pulling Everett out of school and out of daycare, and he came home. We got a nanny to be with them. The cost was very high. The prescription drugs were expensive, and he had to have, 2 doses, 6 hours apart on the dot, no more, no less. If he doubled up on a dose, that was life-threatening. So it was just very kind of a scary thing. And I think I took on a bulk of the stress, a bulk of the coordination, a bulk of the communication between home and with our doctors. I was in charge of sort of all of it. And I just went through a period where I was really, really stressed and tired and angry and irritable, and trying to work and trying to take care of the kids and trying to take care of this medical issue and still go through day-to-day life. And it wasn't until after we stopped the medication and we got out of that phase that I just went, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I never asked for help and I never got help. And I sort of took it all on myself because I was the mother and I wanted to make sure that he was well cared for. And so I didn't want anybody else's help because I felt scared. So, that was kind of my experience when I look back, and I just think outside of COVID, that was probably the most stressful thing that we went through as a young family.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting what you say. I think so many people don't recognize the signs. They're physical signs, they're mental, they're emotional, and for want of a better word, they're spiritual. And what I mean by that is we lose connection to ourselves and connection to other people, and these are all the signs and symptoms and the things you're talking about. But as I say, so many of us don't recognize when we're in this state of burnout. We don't we put it down to something else.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the misconceptions about burnout that you've encountered?
I think one of them is that we've normalized it. It's not normal. It's not normal to be in this constant state of high level chronic stress. And yet so many of us are, and particularly so many females, and we've just normalized it. And we wear busyness as a badge of honor, and it's all about a life of productivity and drive. And and rest is not valued. And as I say, I think we've just completely normalized something that shouldn't be normal.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things is we sometimes, and maybe I was guilty of this, think actually it's a sign of weakness if we admit to being burnt out. We should be able to keep going and running and running and running and running. But actually, we're not built as humans to do that. We have an ultradian rhythm, which is about work and rest, work and rest. We should be doing short sprints and then walking back to the starting line during the day. We should be doing this on a 90-minute rhythm, but we don't. We just run a marathon rather than doing short sprints throughout the day and then collapse into bed at the end of it. And we see it as a weakness if we can't do that, or when we see burnout as that weakness. I think another key misconception is probably, yoga or meditation is going to solve for burnout. And yeah, those are great things to do. Anything where you can gain energy are really positive things to do. And, I'd wholeheartedly get behind them. In fact, you probably heard me continuously going on about the benefits of meditation, but actually we can't just solve for the symptoms. We actually have to go to the root cause and get to the root cause, like any anything, any disease, for example. We need to get into the root cause of what the problem is there and trying to solve for it that way. I think the statistics are that it takes 3 months to 1 year to come out of burnout. So a trip to the spa in a day is not gonna cut it and not gonna get us to where we want to be. Yeah, I mean, I've got a number of other ones if we've got time for a few more. But I mean, I think it's things like we put the onus on the individual. Burnout is an individual problem. Yeah. Well, actually, it's not. It's a systemic thing, and it's an organizational thing at times, and we need to be aware of that. And I think the other thing is that is a misconception is that stress and burnout are the same things. They're not. Stress is a part of life, right? But if we have that continuous high level rate of stress for a prolonged period, that's when it goes into burnout. And they're two very different things. And I think it's important to notice those.
I have a question. As you were talking, I kept thinking working moms in particular have a very full plate. And they don't have the luxury to be able to take things off the plate. It's like, listen, this is all the stuff I got to get done. And I am feeling some of these things. I have like emotional markers of being burnt out, and I have physical markers of being burnt out. And I'm starting to have mental markers of being burnt out. What advice would you give for those parents, specifically those mothers, like who do not have the ability to take something off?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important question. And I think it goes back to this idea of, I tell you what you should do. You should just put your oxygen mask on, and you should create self-care, and you should delegate, and you put boundaries in place, and, we'll go to the spa, and, we're told all the things that we should add in. And we're also told, well, you need to take something off your plate. But when you're in this state of burnout, it's very difficult to do. And so asking people to do these things is actually something that doesn't really help. What we need to do, and I guess it's a journey that I went on, and it's a journey that I would take somebody on if you were on my course. It's really important to there's 4 steps, I think, to actually how you can solve the burnout. The first one is actually you need to understand where you're at. There's a spectrum of burnout. Where do you sit on that? How is it impacting your life? How's it impacting not just yourself, but those that you love? What are the consequences if you don't solve for it? And most people don't think about that, but you cannot keep running. It's like that plane that keeps flying with no fuel. At some point, it's going to come crashing down. And so understanding, first of all, where are you at? The second thing that I think is important is to understand, where do you want to go? If you don't know where you are going, if you don't know what it looks to thrive rather than survive, how are you going to get there? So it's really important to understand, actually, where do I want to go? What does it look like if I'm not in burnout? What could it look like? And then we have to get to the root cause. That's not put a Band-Aid on the symptoms. That's actually get to the real root cause of what the problem is. And I came out, again, this came down to my research. I think there's 3 key insights. The first insight is that actually, as human beings, we're all hardwired to fit in, for connection. And it stems from when we were all running around in prehistoric days, you know, our leopard print dresses on, and we've got two great fears: fear of death and fear of disconnection. And the second one, fear of disconnection, is closely linked to fear of death, because if we were ostracized from the tribe or the group in prehistoric times, it would have meant certain death.
Right.
And so we're hardwired to connect, for connection. And so we look outwards and we look externally. We look externally for validation, because that's a sign that we're connected to the tribe. And that's true of both males and females. However, so why is it that females are suffering so much from burnout? And I think it's because in this day and age, it's really difficult for females to be externally validated under what I call the modern patriarchal system. And when I talk about patriarchy, I don't say it's a man thing. It's, you know, perpetuated by both males and females, but we are in this system where, and it's not the traditional patriarchy anymore, it's a modern one where females are asked to conform to both masculine and feminine gender norms. And so that's what I call the double burden. But the double standard is that males aren't to the same extent asked to conform to the same standards. So, you know, that's a double standard. But then there's a double bind, which is you can't be too masculine, you can't be too feminine as a female. And what happens is it's very difficult for us then to be externally validated. And that has an impact on our worth. And when our worth is affected, it impacts our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior. And the behaviors that we see are things like people pleasing, control, perfection, busyness, and they're very prominent at the moment. I see in many females, but these are all the behaviors which lead to burnout. Yeah. And what it means is we step away from our authentic selves. We're trying to do everything for everybody all of the time. We get into this cycle of get further and further outwards and move away from our authentic self. And so once we understand this, then we can solve for it. And for me, it's about how do we solve for it? Well, if we come back to ourselves, if we come back to what our strengths are, our values, our purpose, our natural rhythm, if we do that, we're then able to align our decisions and our choices and our tasks and responsibilities to what is important to us and is authentic to us. And so all the things that we take on that maybe we don't need to, some of those things can actually step aside, and we actually start to create time and create the space. So as I say, it's a process. It's not that you suddenly say to somebody, oh, I tell you what, take something off your plate. It's not that easy. You have to come back to your authentic self and know what tasks and responsibilities. And one of the things that we do on the course is we give you a download of everything that most females are carrying up here, and we've downloaded it for you into this spreadsheet. And so we take people through it line by line and say, which of these, you know, are aligned to who you do, what's aligned to your strengths, your purpose, your values, you know, your rhythm. And then they start to be able to see what tasks they can take off their plate so that they free up time to add in things where they can gain energy. Yeah. So I've a lot there, I realise, but it's an important journey, I think, to take somebody on.
No, I loved that. And I loved when you were talking about the download, because that's something we talk about at Maple all the time. And how do you create, because before Maple, my husband and I would download everything, because I remember just being like, during the pandemic, I have too much on my plate and I don't know what to do. And we need to sit here and figure out like who's responsible for what, because I need better teamwork, because this is not currently working for me. And so we put everything into a spreadsheet, and I'm talking the spreadsheet like a Google.
It's a big old spreadsheet.
It was a huge spreadsheet. It was like annual, daily, weekly, monthly tasks. I mean, we broke it down by time. We broke it down by child. We broke it down by sort of industry. Is this for work? Is this for home? Is this for school? Is it for holidays? Is it birthdays? You know, and there was a lot there. And it wasn't until we went through that list together that my partner really saw that invisible load. And he did not see it before. He did not know about it. And so one of the things that we really encourage at Maple is to use the software to help you be a better team inside the household and really collaborate on all the things that you have to get done to run the house, because it's like a giant project. You know, it's really like running a business. I mean, running a household is like running a business. And so it takes some time to set it up. But once you have it all in there, it's in.
Yeah.
And it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And then you can better collaborate on things. And we have a lot of features and tools to help you do that. And it's all free. And once we did that, we took that spreadsheet, we put it into Maple, and we created tasks and reminders. And, we have documents and notes and folders, all helping us sort of run the household. It took off so much pressure from my shoulders, and inside it was like a huge part of that mental load was taken out of my head, and it was put right here onto my phone.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I will never forget one morning, and this was like 6 months ago. Austin and I didn't even talk about it, but the kids had soccer practice that afternoon, and he came upstairs because he saw the notification on Maple that they had soccer practice that afternoon, and he went and packed their bags. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, this is what teamwork looks like in running a house and being partners and running a family. And it was just so eye-opening where we had come from and where we were, and just the process that it took to get there. And that was just one small way for us to like work together, and for me to feel like more in alignment, which is what you're talking about. So
yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting. I think the big thing for me is actually taking, instead of it being tasks where we're still the CEO, is actually you can create projects then. Okay, you're in charge of this project, whatever that project might be. Soccer for the kids, that's your domain, not mine. So actually I'm taking everything, I don't have to think about it anymore. That's on somebody else. And how do we delegate it? And how do we put boundaries around it? But yet it's knowing those things which align with you specifically, and what decisions are going to be important to you, and what things are, what tasks do we take on, because we try and do everything. This is our generation of females. We're trying to do what she does next to us and what they do, and we have to do it all. And actually we don't have to do it all, but it's very difficult when you're in that state of burnout to see actually what can I take off my plate so that I can add things in which are going to give me energy. And we need to do those things as well,
instead of feeling so depleted all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that. We talk a lot about like what we can do with our partners, what we can do for ourselves. Is there anything in your opinion that employers can do for working mothers to help prevent burnout and to create better work-life balance?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big one. I think organisations could do a number of things. I mean, we could get into a whole debate about flexible working, and maybe we don't have the time here for that. But that would be top of my list. But also, it's how do you support females? How do you recognise the signs and symptoms, of burnout? Because it's going to have a huge impact. If females are disengaged, if they are leaving the workforce, if they're not moving up the career ladder because it just is too much for them, that has a huge impact on organisations. And so it's important that organisations do things, training around burnout, managers looking out and communicating and asking questions, asking what the workload looks like both at home and personally and professionally. I mean, there's a huge amount, and I think there's a lot of conversations that can be had around that.
Yeah, I know we're getting tight on time. We have 4 more minutes. But
you and I could go on for hours about this.
I know, and we have, and we probably will continue.
We need to do another one.
Just for the moms or maybe the parents who are watching right now, are there any resources, books, materials that you can suggest that they can, familiarize themselves, educate themselves on burnout, and maybe what to watch for, ways to help in the short term if they're not able to join a course like yours?
I think there's a number of things. I think if you just a great thing to do is hashtag burnout on any social media platform, and there's a wealth of knowledge. I mean, for example, LinkedIn, every day I'm trying to write around for both males and females, because it is a problem for both, but equally, we need our male allies as well in the workplace and at home to help with this. There's a number of books. There's a really good book. I've got one of them here actually. Drop the Ball by Tiffany. I don't know how I pronounce her name, but Dufu.
Let us see the cover. What is it?
Let me see if I can show it to you. This is a really good book. I don't know if you've. As I
drop
say,
the ball.
hopefully my book's going to get finished and written soon. But there's one about setting boundaries. There's actually books called Burnout and Stopping the Stress Cycle, and they're all going to give you tips and tricks. But as I say, I think the most important thing is to really stop looking outwards, start coming inwards, and working out actually what tasks and activities can you start to offload so you can put more of the energy gain things in. I think is the key thing here, and also give yourself permission to do this. It's not weak, it's not normal, and that start having conversations around this, because the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it, the more we can do things about it.
Yeah, and we're getting very close on time, but I just wanted to end with, you said something to me recently that really resonated, which is, how bad does it have to be before you pay attention to it? And I thought that was a really good question. Andrea has this really cool checklist around physical, mental, emotional burnout, and the ways that you're manifesting that in your body, in your behavior. And it wasn't until I went through that checklist that I started seeing burnout was presenting itself in my body very physically. And I started thinking about that, like, how bad physically would it have to get for me to do something about it? So
yeah, I was going to, sorry to interrupt. It's really interesting because I take that step further as well, and I say, how bad does it have to get for those closest to you? Because as females, we will just keep running and going. It will get bad. We know it gets bad, but we'll just keep on going. But the better question, I think, now is actually, how bad does it have to get to those closest to you?
Which is our children.
And I think it's then that we stop and think, oh, actually, this if I don't actually do something about it, this could have sort of severe consequences. So
yeah, I think that's a really, really good question to ask. And Andrea, where can users and viewers find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You'll find me under Andrea Smith, the Thrive by Design group. I'm also on Instagram as Awaken Your Superhero. It's actually the title of the course that I run. But yeah, as I say, and look out for at some point in the future the book being released. I get around to finishing that. But yeah, Lauren, thank you so much for having me on today. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, so
everyone should join up to Maple because it's amazing.
Exactly. And get some of that's in your head out. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you.